Hey everybody, hope everybody's had a great wonderful day or having a great wonderful day. Gotten in this mood for canning. I did some jalapeno jelly and now I'm going to bring along with some blackberry jelly. Off the side of the road, berry bushes, picked a bunch, cleaned them already, threw them in the freezer until I think I had enough to make this recipe. I'm using the recipe out of this book because I haven't made it in a long time. I'm over here at the kids' house because I don't have any space at my place to do it. So I thought I'd bring you along today to just go by this recipe and not my other stuff. First thing you want to do, of course, anytime you do canning, if you're using older jars, always inspect them for your cracks and chips on them. Don't use those. Make sure you get them all good and cleaned and get all that straightened out before you start doing all your prep, because you need all those jars all set aside and ready to go. I normally set mine in the canner because I'll water bath all this. So I got them sitting in the canner so that they are all hot and everything and ready to go. So I've got my berries. This recipe I'm also going to do as a no pectin additional added. Pectin's a natural thing anyway, it doesn't really matter, but I want to try it this way. I've always been curious on how to do it. Hopefully it's going to turn out right. They normally say when you're going to do stuff with your berries and things like that, everything has natural pectin in the fruits already. They say to use about a fourth of almost right. Where there's a little, like in a blackberry, there's a little bit of red in a couple spots on the berry, not red berries, but where they're almost completely all black, but there's a couple of red spots maybe in them. They say to use in your recipe about a fourth of that. This takes 9 cups and 6 cups of sugar. And the reason why I'm also doing it this way too, because if you go by using a pectin recipe, you use less berries and more sugar. I want more berries. So, let's get started here. We're going to crush up the berries. I'm going to use every bit of the berry. I'm not going to strain it out and everything. I made this a long time ago. The whole family raved over the jam that I made. Alright, let me get my thinking juice going. Okay, so first things first, I need to crush up 9 cups of berries, and I'm really hoping I picked enough to make it all the way. Let's find out. So you can see how I've got a few of them. They got a little bit of red at the bottom. And so, like I said, get your fingers out of there. You just probably cost me making my full recipe now. And when you're picking, make sure that you eat while you pick so that your bag doesn't get less full as you go. So, smush them down really good. Let's see how much that makes. I love these big old jars or measuring cups. Alright. Well, that was about 2 cups. I might have enough. Look, Shauna made a mess. And of course, I washed all these and did all that before I froze them so they'd all be ready to go. I think somewhere we heard down the line, when you're washing them, you can add like a little salt to the water when you're washing them to help, helps kill off bugs. So I did not get 9 cups. I remember picking enough berries. my idea was to...
It was that one berry I ate.
It was a berry Sean I ate earlier. Made me miss my 9 cups. I only got 7 cups.
That was a serious berry.
But my original thought with doing my jam was doing it the way I did it before, which was with the Pectin recipe, which calls for less berries and a lot more sugar. So this called for 9 cups crushed and 6 cups of sugar. So I got 7 cups of crush, so I just kind of did the math, divided it down to get 4.6 cups of sugar. So I just put a little less sugar, so my yield at the end will probably be, I think it's supposed to make 5 half pints, 8-ounce jars. So I might only get 4, jars. Alright, so now this, it's going to boil over a medium heat, not a high heat. And make sure I get all the berry juice. So you'll cook this, ouch, over a medium heat. And you're going to cook it until it thickens up. And I'm hoping that this recipe will turn out right, so that I didn't have to use as much sugar. Using it with Pectin, like I said, it was like, I think only 4 cups of berries, but you still used like 6 cups of sugar. So get it all stirred up, and with the berries you want to kind of keep a good stir on it because you don't want them sticking. Luckily these little Instapot inserts that we got real cheap have been working real good because they're stainless steel, so they don't stick as bad as everything else.
How many did we get of those? 8?
Oh man, we probably picked up like 6 of these things. I mean, they're great. If you've seen us in our little solar oven we made to melt beeswax, man, those things work great just to sit them in there with some screen over it. They're working great for this because it's nice and tall, so I don't have to worry about the boil over. And what you're looking for is to get it all done, and since we're not using a Pectin, we're going to have to do some gel tests for it, which is you can use it with like a spoon, dip it out to make sure it kind of comes in one nice little sheet off of there. I'm going to try that method, and I'm going to do the other method. You get a plate and you'll just put a little spoonful on each one, stick it in your freezer for like a minute, and then take your finger through the plate. And if it wrinkles up and pushes away and doesn't, fall in to your finger mark, and you can see that the jam will make a wrinkle basically when you push it, then your test is done. Then you'll take it from that point and start putting it in your jars. Main thing is to make sure all the sugar, of course, gets dissolved in with your berries. And I wanted to try to use, like I said, this recipe because it did call for less sugar. I want the flavor of the berry and not just something that's just a super sweet jam to put on my toast and stuff. I'd rather have that little bit more tart for me. So you'll see, as I'll see, if this really works the way it's supposed to. So we'll let that heat up and we'll be back. Okay, we're coming to a boil, and this is also considered a long cook. So you'll cook it for more than the 10 minutes with the adding for Pectin and stuff. But I was kind of reading the recipe, and it says to follow the directions of how to do it as another recipe that's in the book, and it's got in there 4 tablespoons of lemon juice. And in one of the side notes it says that sometimes lemon juice will help thicken for the gel, because you're going to cook this until it thickens and does its little test. See how runny it is? It's nowhere near ready. So I haven't done it before. We're going to see if this is going to be a boo-boo or not. Definitely leave that down below if I'm going to make a boo-boo. If not,
we've never done no Pectin before.
Never done the no Pectin jam before, so we'll see if that works, because it just said to follow the recipe on cooking and stuff, except for change the fruit and sugar amount.
Well, go ahead and add it.
But I'm gonna add that that lemon.
4?
4 tablespoons.
Now, should we have adjusted that for the...
Oh yeah, I probably should have made it only 3 tablespoons. Oh well, maybe I'll have a berry lemon flavor. I don't think
citrus kick.
Yeah, I don't think it's gonna hurt any. But like I said, you're gonna cook this over a medium heat instead of a boil until it's thick. It's a longer cook. It's your traditional, you know, the way they used to do it before adding pectin to stuff. That's what I kind of wanted to do because, you know, that's me. I mean, obviously doing the pectin way. There's nothing wrong, like I said, with the pectin. It's a natural, that's all in all fruit anyway. You keep stirring it so it doesn't stick, and you cook it for a good long time too, so that all the sugar is gonna, you know, dissolve in there well. And just bring it to a little boil like this, and when it starts to thicken up, you can start doing your test. But when you're doing your test now, take it off the heat because you don't want to scorch anything, and if it's already ready, you don't want to keep cooking, I guess, for longer. It might mess it up. We'll be back in a little bit. Alright, I think it's been cooking for about 30 minutes now. This is going to be something, since you're not doing the pectin, it's going to cook a lot longer, I guess, to break down the natural pectin that's in the fruit itself. And I need to pull out my gel test out of the freezer. It's kind of wrinkling. It's not really running back on itself after I pushed it, so
The steam's messing up.
it kind of did it there.
Sorry, y'all.
I will say though, see, that's got that little bit of tartness to it. Not too much sweetness.
Ooh, that's
I think.
yummy.
And that's what I was kind of liking. So, looks like we're kind of past that.
Oh, that's sweet.
Yeah, it's got a little bit of sweetness still to it. I was really hoping not to get so much, but
Sorry, y'all. I wanted to show the sheeting off the spoon better, but the steam really
messed it up. Remove all that. Okay, so I've got my little funnel, got my deal to check the headspace, which one's a 1/4 inch, which is that first notch, or which is normally that top thread that's on your jars, ladle, and your tongs. Pick up your jar. Now, in the canner, pretty big canner, I'm only going to do just a few jars out of this recipe. I think it's supposed to make like 5, 6. So the suggestion is you always need at least 1 inch of water above, so that you don't have jars rattling inside and everything. I normally fill the whole bottom full of all jars. Add your water until it fills up all your half pint. Now this is going for half pints now. Fill it up until the water goes over the top of every jar in your pot. And that should give you enough after you put full jars back in there to raise the water level up over 1 inch. So I just leave them in here on, you know, not boiling water or nothing. So just take my jar out and dump the water out. Kind of give it a little bit of a shake, holding your tongs, of course. Now this thing is, you're gonna be hot, so I know we just grab a little rag. And we will put that over there. That helps kind of keep the outside ring, you know, not as dirty. And just ladle it in there. Right. And well, I've touched in the very tip, but I think it's not too bad.
Why don't you take a spoonful out?
You just take your lid up first. I always grab it, kind of just spin it around, because you know that jar is hot right now. Take your lid.
And you're just cleaning off the...
Yeah, I was just cleaning off the edge so that will make a good seal. And then hold the jar. Screw it on until it's snug and then finger tight. But I got this little tool. Got it on a clearance one year. Had it sitting in a box. Found it. But it's made for your big jar, your wide mouth, and your regular. And it kind of opens up like a little hinge here. And on here you'll see there's an arrow and an arrow. When those two arrows line up like that, your jar is tightened to the supposed right tension.
Right finger.
Tight, yeah.
Finger tight.
Yeah.
And why do we need that?
because Shauna over tightens everything.
Sure.
So just grab it, turn it until the two arrows meet, pop it off. And then we put it right on back in. Ready. Bloop, 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 bloop. Yeah, I was using this, it's like a punch bowl ladle, but it, one scoop almost does a half pint. Wipe your edge off. Make sure you always inspect your jars, make sure there's no cracks in them or chips, because just throw those away because they won't be any good for you. That jar's warm. Open our little hinge there. Set that right up on top. That just shuts right back down. Grab it. Till the two arrows line up. And that's supposed to be the proper tightness.
And you don't have to have one of those or use one of those. We're going to finish up these jars and we'll be back in just a bit.
Alright, so now once the jars are all in there and they're good and snug so they won't jiggle around in there when the water's, because you want to bring it up to a rapid boil, and we're under 1,000 altitude feet, so it's 10 minutes. So put the lid on, crank the heat up, because I've been just leaving the heat on it like low just to keep everything hot in there for filling jars and everything. So you'll turn your heat up to high once it starts to rapid boil, 10 minutes at under 1,000 altitude, and then once it's gone through that 10 minutes of a full rapid boiling, then you'll take your lid off and let it sit there for another 5 minutes, and then remove your jars onto like a wooden board if you've got it, or a towel or something. You don't want to put it down straight onto a cold countertop, because there's a good chance you could crack your jars and you'd have jelly everywhere, and don't ask me if that's ever happened before, because it might have. So alright, I'm gonna let this do its whole thing and we'll be back when we're taking them out. Alright, so it's done a 10-minute rapid boil, had the lid off for 5 minutes, and it's ready to take them out. Put them on a nice like a towel or a board or something, so that you're not putting hot jars down on a cold surface to possibly break and crack all over the place and make a big old mess.
That was quick.
Yeah, and I'm already pulling them up. There is our blackberry jelly. Now you want to be careful not to touch the top of your lid, because you want it to hear that little pop sound it'll make, so that you know that it got a good seal. Once they cool down, if you can go and touch the top of that lid and it sinks down on you, then you know that it didn't seal good on. And so I would suggest you just put those that aren't already popped, put them in the refrigerator and eat those first, because they'll go bad if you just set them on your shelf, because that means they didn't seal properly.
But these are good right away.
Yeah, I mean you can make it up. There's a pop. So
you don't have to wait.
Yeah, I mean once you do the jelly and stuff, it's not like pickling where you want to wait for them to turn into pickles. Jam's perfectly good, because trust me, I was tasting it as some accidentally fell in my mouth. And don't forget, your jar's going to be a little warm. And like I said, I didn't do any straining on these. I kept everything in them because I really like the flavor of everything there. It does get a little seedy, for a few seeds in there for the blackberries, but I kind of like that myself. You can always kind of strain it a little bit to take out some of the little chunks like that, but I prefer to have them in there. All right. Another great, wonderful day of making jam. If you might have saw, we did make some jalapeno jam, and the blackberry jam turned out okay. It looks like, I know it tasted pretty good before I put it in jars. I appreciate you very much for coming along again. Thank y'all so very much. Y'all have a great and wonderful one. I can't wait to see y'all till next time. And definitely leave me the comments down below for all the mistakes I made that you could probably help me fix out. 'Cause it's been a while since I've done it, but it's always fun. Y'all have a great one. Later.